Hi and welcome to today's webinar, which is going to be all about explaining you the benefit system and making sure that when it comes when you want to make a claim for benefits, that everything is clear for you. And today we're going to discuss a couple of interesting topics, and we're going to go through the benefits that are available to you once you move back. And we're going to discuss housing benefit, we're going to discuss council tax deduction, child benefit, child tax credit, working tax credit, working tax credit, and even childcare. We're going to go through all of those benefits step by step and to see exactly of what benefits are available to you once you make an application. And as always, feel free, if you have a question, anything pops up, just add it into the chat. I'll try and read it out later, or we'll discuss it personally together. And once you have that, just give me 1 second. And just feel free to put the question into the chat, and I'll try and mention it, or we'll be in contact later personally together, and we'll discuss it together, and we'll show exactly what we'll try and answer those questions that you have relating to your if it's just a personal question, or if it's something more general question, we'll try and address it, and which is going to be something that everyone can learn of. So let's get started now and start when it comes, and let's start talking about housing benefit, and then we're going to go over to council tax deduction. So let's start with housing benefit and explain what is a housing benefit. Housing benefit is designed for people who are on low income, and they have to pay rent obviously in the place that they're renting, and that's what the government has designed a scheme which is called the housing benefit scheme, and that's where they can apply at the local council for help with their weekly rent. Now, it's important to point out that because you're not familiar with the system here, so it's important to point out how the system in England works. So there's actually a couple of government departments who pay out benefits, and each department has got a different responsibility for different benefit, and each benefit gets applied by different departments. So housing benefit gets paid out by your local borough. And what I mean is, if you each area has got a different borough and a different council, and you're going to have to go to that borough to apply for the benefits that you want to apply for. Now, if you're not sure which borough you live in, make sure that you check online which borough you live in, because there are a couple of boroughs. So basically, let's say even in Manchester itself, it's split up to 3 boroughs. So we've got Manchester City Council, you've got Salford, and you've got other councils. So that's why it's important that when you make a claim for housing benefit, before you make the claim, make sure that you know into which borough you're going to make an application, and then go through the process that they have when it comes to benefits. Now, what's important to know for housing benefit, that there is a number of ways how to make an application. You can either make an application through a paper application, or you could make an application through or you can make an application. So either you've got a paper application, or you could make an application online, or in some councils even offer you to come for an interview to the council and make the claim there with them. Now, all of these 3 ways are fine to do, but the only problem is that, let's say if you're going to go for an interview, if you're going to have an interview, you're going to be stuck about the interview, and any questions that they want to ask you, they'll be able to ask. And that's why it's a bit scary when a person goes for an interview. And I usually tend to tell my clients, try to avoid the interview option, because this way they've got you in front of you, and any questions they want to ask you, they'll ask you. And that's why it can be sometimes tough if you're not sure exactly what to answer, or what information you have to provide, or what not provide, or what to say. And that's why I rather avoid going through an interview, but rather make either an application online or make it on a paper application. Now, some councils offer you online. Now, the problem with online applications are that if you make the application online, they ask you loads of questions. So they're going to go through questions by questions, and you haven't got a choice but to go through the whole process of making an application and to answer all the questions that they are asking you. And that's why it can take long. And in some councils, the going through the online can take ages and are quite complicated. And that's why, if you can, try and go for a paper application. So ask them for a housing benefit application form, which you can fill in then in your own time, and basically whatever information you want to put down, you'll have time to think of what you have to answer, what not to answer, and how to submit the information to them. And that's why I always advise people to go for the paper version, but rather than the online application or going for an interview. And some councils will tell you that they don't have paper applications, but the truth is most of them do have a paper application. You just have to tell them that you rather go for a paper application, or try and persuade them that they should send you one, because some of them won't. They'll try not to send you one. Now, when it comes to making an application, we'll discuss now the paper form for a moment. When it comes to the paper form, it's important that you get a stamp on the application form, meaning usually the council get a stamp on the form, which that's going to prove to them the date you took the application. And I'm going to show you a picture in a second what the stamp looks like. But basically what they would do is they would put a stamp on the application for the date that you took the application form, and then they would use that, and you'll have 30 days from the date that you've made the application, from the date of their stamp, to give in that application. And it's important that that stamp has the date of when you made the application, and also that on that stamp that it's got the date by when you have to submit it, and also the date till when, and also a signature from the officer who signs it, that he gives it to you, that form, that he gave you that form on this particular date, and it gives you 30 days to reply to them to submit the application form. Now, before other people want to know is how many bedrooms are they entitled to, and how much housing benefit will they be entitled to once they make a claim. Now, the answer to that is not a simple answer, and it basically depends on your circumstances, and that's what we're going to go through now. We're not going to mention the facts and the figures exactly how much it is, but at least you'll have an understanding, and to see, you'll be able to figure out basically how much benefits you're going to be entitled to once you move back. So let's say we've got a family of 2 parents and then 5 kids. One is 15, let's say 15, 12, 10, no, let's say 15, 12, 9, and 5, and 2, and 1. So basically what I want to try and bring out is that kind of family. Let's start from the bottom up. So the youngest 2 ones, the younger 2 who are under 10, they're going to be entitled to 1 bedroom, because almost 2 kids under 10, they always have to sleep together. Now, if you have a second child who's going to be over 10, but let's say now you have a boy and a girl who are over 10, then the boy and the girl get their own bedroom once they're over 10. Under 10, they have to sleep together. Over 10, they get their own bedroom. Now, if it's 2 boys or 2 girls, they are still considered to be they still have to sleep together. And therefore, even if they are above 16, they still have to sleep together. Above 10, they still have to sleep together until they turn 16. And once they turn 16, they're entitled to their own bedroom. So again, kids who are under 10, they always sleep together. If they're over 10, depends. If it's a boy and a girl, they get their own bedroom. If it's not a boy and a girl, it's just one. If it's a boy, one is a boy and one is a girl, then they get their own bedroom once they turn 10. And then above 16, anyone gets their own bedroom, and obviously another extra bedroom, which is going to be for the parents, who they sleep in their own bedroom. And that's how you can work out how much benefits you are entitled to once you make your housing benefit claim. Now, the second part is how much rent you can get. Now, once you know how many bedrooms you're entitled to, the next step is you have to find out how much is the LHA rate. And LHA stands for Local Housing Allowance. And Local Housing Allowance has been introduced in 2008. When they introduced, there used to be the system that basically when you made the application for housing benefit, they used to come down to your property, have a look at it, and basically they used to decide that on the property, on the size of the property, and the location of the property, and it wasn't like a standard how much you're entitled to. And that's what they wanted to change, to make it easier for them and for people to know how many bedrooms are they entitled to. That's why they changed it and made that basically it goes to according to bedroom entitlement. Now, it makes a difference if you have a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom. If you're entitled to a 4 bedroom, even if you live in a 1 bedroom, you're going to get the 4 bedroom rate if your tenancy is that high. And on the other hand, opposite, if your rent is a bit lower than that, so you're always going to get, according to your bedroom entitlement, whatever you are entitled to. And as quickly mentioned, if you live in a 1 bedroom, but you're entitled to 4 bedroom and your rent is about a 4 bedroom rate, then you're going to get the 4 bedroom rate entitlement. And vice versa as well. If you're not entitled to a bigger property, let's say entitled to 1 bedroom and you have a 4 bedroom property, then you would only get the bedroom entitlement as to what you're actually entitled to, and not according to 4 bedroom, although that you have a 4 bedroom rate. Now, housing benefit gets worked out according to something which is called an applicable amount. An applicable amount means that they work out according to your family size, how much benefits are you entitled to. And according to your entitlement, that's how much bedroom you're going to be get. That is how much benefits you're going to get. So let's say a couple who is entitled at the moment, the figures are currently they're entitled to £124. If they earn above £124, then for each pound that they're going to be earning, they're going to be losing 65 pence from the housing benefits. So again, if you earn above the applicable amount, and the rates we're going to have separately, which I'm going to email afterwards out to every tenant, but the rates basically anything you earn, earning above the rate that you're allowed to be earning, you're going to be losing 65 pence from your ongoing housing benefit claim. And that gets deducted from your benefit claim, and to that gets included your wages would get included into that, your child tax credit, working tax credit, that would all get included as an income and will be used to calculate how much your earnings are per week. And now we've got as well if a person gets some other kind of benefits, then those benefits they'll take those benefits into consideration. But again, it's going to depend on which benefit it is, because not every benefit gets considered as an income. And that's why it's important to figure out exactly which benefit you're getting to see if it's a benefit which gets included as part of income, or that's a benefit which is not included as part of income and will not be included when they work out your housing benefit claim. Now also now that you're ready, you understand which bar you're supposed to be claiming, you understand how many bedrooms you're entitled to, you understand how much you're allowed to be earning, or you don't know exactly how much you're allowed to be earning, but you have got an understanding that you're not allowed to be earning. The next step is now to actually make the housing benefit application form. And the way how to do that is, again, with those three methods. So whatever method you've chosen, whether you've done it online or you're filling in the application form in paper, you're going to have to submit your original documents to the local council, which means you're going to have to go down to the council and submit those documents to the council. So what the documents you're going to have to take with are your passport for you and your partner, your child benefit award letter, your child tax credit award letter, your last 2 months bank statements, your last 2 months pay slips, and your tenancy agreement. And those documents are the documents you have to take with to housing benefit, which is going to be as part of your application. Although you've already, let's say, submitted the application online, those are the supporting documents which you have to give in to make your housing benefit claim. And basically what's going to happen is the housing benefit department, whoever it is, they're going to process your claim, and most probably going to have some questions to ask you, because usually a claim never gets approved without asking any questions. And that's why make sure they're going to send you letters to your property, and it's going to come only to your property, and they're going to ask you some questions. So they can ask you, they want further information about this, or they want further pay slips, or they want to have an explanation on transaction, or whatever it is. They can ask you further information on certain documents, and make sure just to provide it to them as soon as possible once you have those documents. And make sure, usually you get like 30 days to respond to any letters, so make sure that within 30 days you reply to those letters and give them all the information they ask you for. And it's important I'm saying 30 days, because after 30 days, if you don't submit your documents within 30 days, so what's going to happen is the claim will get cancelled. Basically, that means they're going to send you a letter. Okay, we've received the application, but you haven't replied on time, and that's why we've decided to cancel your housing benefit claim, though they are still going to give you another 30 days to reply to the letter. And that's important. People don't know that often, although you've received a letter saying that your benefits are cancelled, you always have another 30 days to reopen your benefit claim. So that's why make sure to take advantage of that. Even if you missed the 30 days period, make sure that you're given those documents on time, and that you give everything into them like this. They can still process your claim, and they're going to reopen it and back pay your claim from the date of your application, or if you've had a stamp, from the date when your claim form was stamped. And then you're not going to lose any housing benefits, which obviously that's your aim of it, and that's what you're trying to achieve here. Now, we mentioned beforehand that you're going to have to submit the child benefit award letter and the child tax credit award letter and working tax credit. So the question now obviously is, let's say you don't have those documents ready yet, or let's say you haven't applied it for child benefit, you haven't applied for tax credit. What do you do? What's the next process? And how do you proceed now with the application now that you don't have those documents? And the answer to that is that it's always important that, number one, just take your documents and submit them to the council. That's number one. So first of all, just go to the council, submit your application. Even if you don't have all the documents ready, just give it in to them. And like this, number one, your claim is in progress. And you can write to them saying, look, I haven't applied yet, I haven't received it, my child benefit award letter, my tax credit award letter. I'm going to forward it to you as soon as I get it. And hopefully by the time they're going to ask for it, you're going to have already that child benefit award letter, that tax credit award letter to submit to them. And as always, when there's documents that you don't have or they're not available yet, just make sure that you keep them informed, saying that, look, I've applied for those benefits, I haven't got them yet, but as soon as I get them, I'm going to forward them to you. Like this, usually that's fine. If you've showed them a valid reason why you can't submit those documents, you should be fine, and the application will still get approved once you've submitted all those documents. And now, with regard to payments, people often ask me, can they have the payment come direct to the landlord? And the answer is that no. At the moment, unless you have a valid reason why you want the payments to come to your documents, so let's say you've got an issue with gambling or you've got a serious money issue, and that's why you don't want to deal with your own personal finances, you can't have your benefits go to your landlord. You can't have your benefits go to your landlord at the beginning. What I mean to say is that initially housing benefit will make all payments direct to your landlord, and they will make payments direct to you, and you're going to have, and they want you to have the responsibility to forward all payments to your landlord. But let's say if you find it hard or anything, the only way how you can have payments to go direct to the landlord is if your landlord writes to them and says, look, my tenant is in 8 weeks in arrears, he owes me money, and it has to be above 8 weeks of arrears, then what's going to happen is they're going to send a letter to you saying, we received notification from your landlord saying that you're in arrears, that you haven't paid yet, and that's why we want to make payment direct to your landlord. What they're going to do is they're going to give you a chance to say it differently. So basically, if you disputed, if you said, no, you have made payments, then basically what would happen is you can provide evidence saying that, no, I have made the payments and I want payments to continue to come to me. But if you don't mind payments to come to your landlord, what you should do, even submit a letter to them. If you know that your landlord has submitted such a letter, write to them, yeah, it's correct, I'm in arrears and I want you to make payments direct to your landlord. And like this, all payments will automatically come, for future payments are going to go to your landlord, and no longer will you have the headache of making sure you have to transfer the money or making sure everything is up to date. Benefits are going to be paid direct to his account, and he's going to get a monthly statement saying we're paying this and this amount, which covers this and this period, and that should be fine for the landlord. And obviously, if you have to top it up, if money is going to be missing, then you're going to have to make sure to top it up. But if they pay the full benefits, then just leave a letter around, and benefits should automatically come into your landlord's account once a month. And that's about it about when it comes to housing benefits. So let's just recap. Housing benefit is paid through your local council and not through HM Revenue or any other benefits department. Make sure to check which benefits department is responsible for your area. So just make sure to check online with your postcode saying who's your local council. Submit the application in the relevant way what it is, which that council requires. So whether it's an interview, online or paper application, make sure if you take a paper application that you have it stamped on that you have a stamp like this. You have 30 days from the date that you want to submit the application to submit it to them. Make sure to submit the claim, as we said, within the time frame of 30 days. If you have a stamp, then make sure to submit the relevant documents together with the application. So your passports for you and your partner, your last 2 months bank statements, last 2 months pay slips, the tenancy agreement, and any award letters that you have. So let's say child tax credit award letter or tax credit award letter. Make sure that you're given all those documents into them together with your claim. And the more documents you have, just make sure you submit everything, because as we mentioned, if you're not going to give everything at once, they're going to ask you further questions, and it's just going to take much longer for your claim to go through. And if there are documents which are not available to you yet, then obviously make sure that you write clearly to them saying that you haven't got the documents ready yet, and you're going to submit them as soon as possible. Now, one more topic which I want to mention is if the partner doesn't have a national insurance number. And we've got a special podcast for that, explaining exactly what the procedure is and how to get a national insurance number, which you can listen on our website or check it out on YouTube. Just listen through it, and you can even hear an interview I had with a officer when I booked an appointment for someone. So just to give you a clear understanding of what information they're going to be asking you and what details you're going to need to have ready when you come to that appointment. But again, through basically when you claim housing benefit, what's going to happen is, even if your partner doesn't have a national insurance, or even as a foreigner, let's say he's from American, Israeli, whatever he is, not an EA national, then what would happen is usually the council will send your partner for a national insurance interview, which is very good. So basically that means that even if he is a foreigner and he's only got a 6 months visa, they would be sending him to that appointment, and he would be able to get a national insurance number even if he only has this temporary 6 months visa when he just came to the country. But again, that topic is a totally different topic, and there's much more information on that. Either you can listen to on iTunes, on YouTube, or on our website, whatever's easiest for you. Just go and check it out. Then you can hear exactly what information and how to make an application for a national insurance number, whether you're British, if you're an EU national, or you're from abroad. And now let's move on when it comes to child benefit. Now, child benefit is an application any person that earns up to £1,000 can make, and that basically gives them £20.70 for the older child and £13.70 for all the younger kids. And that is an amount you can get up if your earnings are up to £50,000 per annum per year. And the way to make an application is, now, as we discussed, housing benefit is paid out by the council. The child benefit gets paid out by HMRC. So you're going to have to make an application by HMRC. And the only way you can make an application is a paper application, which you have to send in to HMRC. Now, if your kids have foreign birth certificates, and make sure that you're given a birth certificate and make sure you're given the birth certificate together with a passport when you send an application form. If your kids are British, then the only thing it basically means they have a British birth certificate, then the birth certificate itself would be sufficient to send it in to Child Benefit Department. Now, there are two ways of how they can process your claim. They can either process your claim. I'm talking now in the case of someone who's British and just moved back now from abroad, and they now want to apply for child benefit. Now, there are two ways how a person can make that claim for child benefit. So they can either make it, I don't mean how they can make it, I mean how their claim will get processed once they submit the application. And just to mention, the application always runs on one person. It doesn't run on both partners. So what that means is that whoever's British, whoever works, it's good to have them on the name for, they should be the main claimant for child benefit. And then basically what you have to do is you submit the application together with the supporting documents. Now, there are two ways how the benefits department will consider and how they will process your benefits. So they can either process it in a way looking at you as a foreigner, and meaning that they're gonna ask you loads of questions. So they will ask you where you've lived previously, what your address previously was, what your occupation was previously, where your kids learned. So they will dig in much further into your claim, and there were much more questions. Or they could just ask you, or and that's everything in the case that you're British, and then basically you'll have to answer all these questionnaires until your child benefit claim will get approved. And sometimes you're going to have to submit letters from the school's doctors. Sometimes you might need a letter from the schools, from their school, from the kids' schools, and which confirms exactly where the kids learn and that they're actually living with you. And again, each case is going to be in a bit of a, how shall I say it, on a case by case, because HMRC doesn't process every claim the same. Don't ask me why, but that's how it works. And that's why sometimes it's going to ask you loads of questions, and sometimes you'll have that your claim gets approved straight away. So again, once you make your application for child benefit, make sure to complete the whole form and then submit it. If you have British birth certificates are sufficient. If you don't have British birth certificates and the kids are born abroad, then make sure you submit the birth certificates together with the foreign passport and send that in. And again, you don't need to submit the parents' passports. You don't need to submit any other supporting evidence and for the initial application. All you have to do is send in those applications together with the birth certificate and the passport, and you're going to hear back from them either with further questions, or they're going to be happy with the claim that you submitted to them, and they'll approve your claim straight away. But more likely, if they see that you come from abroad, because one of the questions is when you've arrived, they're going to ask you further questions and information that they're going to want from you. And once you get this child benefit award letter, and if you claim housing benefit, make sure that you submit that award letter to the council. So basically, because once you have the child benefit award letter, that's going to be the proof that you are actually that the kids are actually living with you. And that's why it's an important document. So as soon as you have it, make sure that you submit it to them and that they have all the information with regards to your claim. And as well, for anything when it comes to housing benefit, I'm just jumping back for a moment, is make sure any documents that you get, or any changes or any new award letter that you get, make sure to give it into housing benefit. And like this, they can update your claim accordingly and make sure that everything is up to date and that they hold the most recent information for you, because obviously you don't want it to cause an overpayment. And that's why I always make sure any change of circumstances, anything that changes, make sure to submit it to them within 30 days. And now we're going to go further to when it comes to tax credit. Now you have to, I'm going to, at the end of this session, I'm going to show you exactly all the application forms. I'm going to show you a child benefit application form. I'm going to show you a tax credit application form. And just for you to have a bit of an understanding of what the application forms, how they look like, and what you can expect from when making the application. So then we've got the tax credit application form. Now, tax credit application form, in order to have it to the actual application form can't be downloaded online like other benefits. You have to order it from HMRC before making a claim. And basically, you have to call HMRC. The phone number is 0345 300 3900, and just give them a call and ask them if they can send you an application form. And when you make that phone call, you're going to have to give them your name, date of birth, address, and national insurance number. Now, what happens often is that people, let's say, move from the address, or they're moving to a new address. So that's why it's important that you give them the most recent address that they've had on their records for you. So let's say you've been by your parents and you've lived at a different address, and afterwards you lived abroad and then you've come back. So they're probably going to have the address with the address where you grew up, and not the middle address or any address abroad. So that's why when they ask you on the phone, what's your address, just give them in the address where you've been living previously, and that's probably the address where they would have you registered under. It usually takes about 10 to 14 days for your application form to arrive, and the application form comes in the post to you, as was mentioned, about 10 to 14 days. And it's important that you fill it out as soon as possible, because tax credit always gets backdated for only up to 30 days. And that's why if you've moved back at a certain date, or you want to start, or you want to have your claim start on a certain date, and you're going to miss those 30 days, then obviously you're going to miss it and you're going to lose that money. And that's why it's important, as soon as you get the application form, make sure that you submit it on time, and to submit it as soon as possible, and in order not to lose out any payments. And now there are two elements when it comes to tax credit. There's child tax credit, there's working tax credit, there's actually another one, childcare, which we're going to discuss in a moment. But let's start with child tax credit. Now, child tax credit is a benefit which anyone can get, who anyone is on low income and below £16,000, they can get child tax credit. Now, when it comes to child tax credit, you don't have to earn money, you don't have to be employed in order to get child tax credit, but rather, as soon as you want to, if you have kids and you're responsible for kids, you can make an application for child tax credit. And that goes for kids up to 16 years old, or above 16 up to 20 if they're full-time non-advanced further education. So you can make a claim for those kids, and you have a couple of kids, obviously make sure to include all of those kids into your claim when making an application. And you're going to get, like, in the actual application form, you have space for 2 names for 2 kids, but if you have more kids, you're going to get the separate papers, which you can use those to add extra kids. And if you have an additional kids, just make sure to add them into your paper. Just put a separate paper in there which lists all the other kids' names and date of birth, and basically the same information that I would ask in a form. Make sure to put that on a separate paper, and like this, when HMRC will process your claim, they're going to have all the information about your kids. Now, the rate is going to be £63 for the oldest child and £53 for the younger kids. And that's, again, on a basis that your income is under £16,000. And again, I'm going to show you at the end a calculator which you could use if you want to try and work out, see exactly how much tax credit you're entitled to. I'm going to show you a calculator in a moment, which you can just type in your situation, how many kids you have, and then you can work out exactly of how much tax credit you are going to be entitled to. Then there's a second element which is called working tax credit. Now, working tax credit is a benefit you can only get if you work. And now, if you're a couple, then you have to be working 24 hours. If you're a single claimant, then your 16 hours would be sufficient. And what I mean to say is that in order to get that benefits, you can only get it if you work those kind of amount of hours. If you work less, then you won't get it. If you work more, you can get it, but again, it's going to get deducted because the income is going to be higher, and then you won't get the full amount. Now, the actual amount for working tax credit is £74 per week, and now, as mentioned before, and with the 24 hours. So what I'm trying to say is the 24 hours, there is something called minimum wage. And at the moment, the minimum wage is £6.50 for adults over 21, and under 21 is £5.13, and you have to be earning that amount per week, whether 16 hours or times 24 hours, that amount you have to be earning per week in order to be entitled to working tax credits. Now, again, the application form gets sent off to HMRC, and the address is you're going to get a prepaid envelope from them, and make sure to submit it to them as soon as possible. Now, in the application form, you have to include your name, date of birth, national insurance number, your kids' names, date of birth. You're going to need your address. You're going to need the employer's details. You're going to need how many hours you work, the employer's phone number, and also his PAYE reference number, and your bank details where you want the benefits to be paid into. And once you have that, just make sure you submit it to HMRC, and usually it takes about 5 weeks for them to process your application. Now, what's important is that, as mentioned beforehand, it will only get backdated for 30 days, and that's why make sure you submit it as soon as possible. Now, as with a child benefit, sometimes if you come from abroad, they might ask you further questions. And again, it's much on a case-to-case basis, where they are going to ask you further questions, or they're not going to ask you further questions. And that's why I make sure when you submit it as soon as possible, because if questions are going to come, it's going to take some time for them to process your claim. And that's why you want obviously benefit the quicker the possible. Therefore, submit your application as soon as you have your application form, and just send it in to HMRC. Now, there's another element for tax credit which is called childcare, and that childcare basically covers you up to 70% of your childcare fees. And I'm not going to explain exactly how childcare gets worked out when it comes to benefit. The only thing I want to try and bring out here is that in order to claim childcare, you have to be working 16 hours and 16 hours each. So both partners have to be working 16 hours per week in order to be entitled to childcare. And what's important to know is that when it comes to childcare, it's important that you make weekly payments to your childcare provider from the date of your application, because tax credit may ask you for your bank statement at any given time. Ask you, please send us all your bank statements. We want to make sure that you've paid to your childcare provider the amount that you told us. And that's where it can get an issue, sort of, because if you're going to claim childcare, unless you're going to be struggling with making payments to your childcare provider for the beginning, or they are happy to wait until the other benefits to be approved just to make it easier for you, and just because they want to help you a bit. But if HMRC is going to ask you for those bank statements, then you're going to have some problem. And that's why I always advise people, if you want us to claim childcare, rather wait until your tax credit gets approved and then make your application for childcare, instead of making the childcare application as part of your tax credit application. Well, that's just a good tip, and that's my personal opinion. And again, if you want to know more about childcare, head over now to the YouTube. I've made a clear clip showing exactly how childcare gets worked out, exactly how much you have to be working for, exactly how much you would get from HM revenue, how much you would have to add from your own pocket, exactly how would it affect any other benefits that you may be claiming. And make sure to check that out beforehand, because it can muck you up. And that's why make sure to check out that before you make a claim for childcare, that you know exactly how childcare works. And I think that basically that should give you a good idea and a good understanding of what benefits are available to you once you move back to the UK. So let's just recap this quickly to make sure that you have it all clear. Okay, we can just see the sun shining on here. So I'm just trying to sort something out. Okay, I hope you can see clearly, because I'm not sure the pictures come a bit blurred, but okay, I hope you can see clearly, but the pictures become a bit blurred, but it doesn't matter now. And basically, what we're going to do now is a quick recap of what's available. So basically, we said we've got housing benefit, which that's going to cover you for the weekly rent. You know what? Just give me a moment. I'm just going to adjust that for a second. Okay, so let's just make now, sorry about that. So let's just make a quick recap of what we've learned today. So number one, okay, so let's just make now a quick recap of what we've learned today. Okay, so let's just make a quick recap of what we've learned today. So number one, we've got housing benefit, which is going to cover your rent, your weekly rent, and that you're going to be entitled to. And again, make sure to check in which bar you live at, just before you make your application. Then we've got child benefit, and again, housing benefit is going to depend on how much your income is. That's how much you're going to get, and again, there's called an applicable amount, which I'm going to show in a moment exactly the figures. Then we've got the child benefit, which is £20.70 for your oldest child, and £30.70 for younger kids, and that you're going to be entitled to if your income is below £50,000 per year. And just a quick interesting point is that if you both work for £49,000, you would still be entitled to child benefit. And so basically, if you have two parents earning £49,000, you would be entitled to child benefit. But if you have one of you earning above 50, let's say 60 rather, between 50 and 60, there would be deduction. But anything above 60, you wouldn't get child benefit. That's just an interesting point, which I find very interesting. But then basically we've got child benefit, and then we've got child tax credit, which is £63 for the oldest one, and £53 for the younger ones, for all the other younger kids. And then we've got working tax credit, which is £74. And then we've got childcare, which is up to £300 per family, and you would only get 70% of that, and that would give you, let's say, if you're going to claim £300, £210, you have to add £90. But again, that's a complete separate election. It's actually quite complicated, and that's why make sure to listen out and to listen to the other recording that we have on YouTube, or on iTunes, or on our website, wherever you're at. Now, just as a quick one, let me just throw this one in for you, for all of you listening out there. Just let me throw this one quickly, and that when it comes to people want to ask me about maternity allowance, are they entitled to maternity allowance? And just as a quick one, maternity allowance, you can only get maternity allowance if you worked for an employer for 26 weeks during your 66 weeks test period. So basically, they will take a test period which is 66 weeks long, and between those 66 weeks, you have to be working for 26 weeks. Now, what's interesting to know, what's important to know, is that those 26 weeks don't all have to be paid weeks. So meaning that if a person has worked for 13 weeks, and the other 13 weeks is worked but unpaid work, that would also be considered as work. So that's just an interesting point, and can help you in some occasions, that if you have worked but you weren't getting paid, you can still consider those weeks for maternity allowance. You would get maternity allowance even if you haven't been paid for all of the 26 weeks. Okay, so now let's just go through here the documents when it comes to tax credit. Let's just go through the documents which we previously discussed, so just that you can have an understanding of what the process is. Okay, so you should now be able to see my screen, and we're just going to go through all the documents that were discussed. So we've got housing benefit. Now I'm just showing you a application form for housing benefit, which is for Hackney. But again, any other local borough would work out the same, similar. The question will be similar, so it'll help you. So basically, sorry, you should now be able to see my screen. Okay, so you should now be able to see my screen. Sorry for that. So this is an application for Hackney, but again, any other local council would look very similar. So you've got here the application form. As we mentioned here, if you can see that, when my mouse is not sure you can see that here by the date, basically that's a stamp which is very unclear. But basically what that stamp is, that when, as we discussed before, you want to make sure that on your application form you get a stamp. Some council would give it to you on the application form, some would give it separately. So each council works a bit different. Here you would just put your name and your address. Then they would ask you for, I'm just scrolling through the pages here. Then we've got here, they would ask you just your name, your name, your partner's name, date of birth, national insurance number, contact details, if you've previously claimed benefits, and then we've got the nationalities here and the dates you've arrived if you're not British. Then all of those if you're a part-time student or student. Now, just a quick mention, COIL does not have to be included as a student because most not initiated COIL is registered, and you're gonna have issues with that. So if it's just a COIL, then there's no need to declare that you're a full-time student because that's not what the question is meant for. Then we've got here the kids. Then we've got here 1, 2, 3 kids. See that one of the questions you get child benefits. So here, if you put claim childcare, just make sure to include the childcare details for the kids. Here you've got additional kids. And then we've got here any other people living with you. So if you have any other people living with you, which you probably don't have, then we'll just include that into here. And then we've got here we've got their income. So any income they want to know. So beforehand, anyone lives with you, they want in the hospital, they live with you, blah blah blah. So just read through, but probably doesn't reply to you anyways. Then we've got here they have any other income like from income support or job seekers allowance, all of this which you don't have. Then we've got here one of the questions is going to be, do you get child tax credit, working tax credit? Now you can here just make a tick when it comes to child tax, just make a tick on waiting to hear that you're still waiting to hear from a child tax credit and working tax credit. And just as a quick tip, if you're not sure of how much you're getting, or are you getting, let's say in case that you are getting, but you're not sure of how much you're getting, just put a tick in it instead of a number. And anyways, they can have that information from the award letter. And obviously this is, and no one gets cares allowance. And here those two are just a no. And then we've got any other money coming in, which is no. Then here they want your employment details. So what you're going to have to do is say what type of employment you have, who your employer is, and the employment start date, how much you earn per week, if you get any bonus, and how many hours you work per week. And then we've got, are you director of a company or a shell of a company or anything related to companies? So the answer is no. If whatever it is, you have to answer whatever it is. Now, just as a quick one, and don't rely on that if that the question is relating to you, because that's a separate topic issue which needs to be discussed properly. But people ask if they're a director of the company, can they still claim benefits? And usually the answer is yes, they can claim benefits even if they are a director of the company. But again, it depends on many circumstances. So that's why and as a general, yes, you can claim benefits even if you're director of a company, but just make sure that you discuss it with someone else before you jump to it, because it can be different in certain circumstances. Now, if you're self-employed, whether you are or not, just make sure to answer that question and fill in the details, how much you're earning, how much you get. And here they would ask you for your bank details. So any account that you have, make sure to declare it to the benefits department. And then we've got any savings in capital. So if any bonds, national certificates, or just read through this question, basically all about your income, whether you have. Now this is another one about if you've received any funds from a charity. You've got here all these names which you probably never got. Now here's the part that comes with the rent. So here you put in the start date when your rent started. The type of tenancy you have is an AST. Usually it's an AST, which is called a short. Actually, one of my head now, the one that stands for AST, but just usually the normal tenancy is called an AST, and they will ask you for how long it is. So usually it's for 6 months or for 12 months. The amount of rent is whatever it is. There's no rent, which you're not behind with the rent. You have no free periods that which you don't have to pay rent. And here you've got what includes as part of your rent. Here you have loads of questions, which probably all of them are no, that there is no, your rent is nothing part of it. Now here They would ask you about who's your landlord, so just make sure just make sure to put in who your landlord is. Now, if you're related to your landlord, that's again a separate issue and a separate topic which needs to be discussed properly. See what your relation is, how close is, and see how that's going to affect your tax credit claim. Then we've got here about the description of the property. They just want to know what type of property is, which floor it's on, how many bedrooms it's got, how many facilities, bathroom, toilets, kitchen. So make sure to fill this in, which is pretty straightforward. And then we've got here the account details where you want the benefits to be paid. And as we discussed already early on, just make sure to put in the meantime your details, and if at a later stage your landlord wants to change it or you're behind with the rent, they can write them separately. Now, if you want to backdate your claim, here would be the place you ask for backdating your claim. And then when you finish, if you have an advisor, or let's say we would do your claim, we would put our details here, which would allow us to deal with your claim and answer any questions on your behalf. Now here, both of you have to sign it. So the main claimant signs first, then the partner signs, and they date it. And if you want, you can answer those questions about your ethnic group, which again you don't have to, but you can do. It won't make any difference to your housing benefit claim. And again, that's just a quick run through of what a housing benefit application would look like. And basically all of those questions are going to be asked online, but the problem is many times with online application forms that you can't skip it. So let's say you have an answer which you're not sure about or you don't want to answer, then you won't be able to skip it because you won't be able to go to the next question until you've answered the first question. Now let's quickly head over for child benefit. When it comes to child benefit, this is how a child benefit application looks like. Okay, that's just the cover page for child benefit. And basically here they would ask you your name, date of birth, national insurance numbers, previous address, current address, name of your oldest child. If you've been claiming benefits previously, you've got your nationality here. And these are basically questions which, depending on your circumstances, you have to answer them correctly, whatever they are. Now here we've got, do you married, what kind of relationship are you at the moment, married, civil partnership, living with a partner, whatever it is, widow, separated, divorced, just make sure to fill those in. Then we've got if are you part of the HM forces, which you're obviously not. You've got your nationality here, just make sure you put your partner's nationality. And again, this form can be downloaded online from HMRC's website, and then just make sure that you fill it in and submit it to child benefit. And I'm not sure if we mentioned that previously, but child benefit can always get backdated for 3 months. So although that you're going to need it for housing benefit, and that's why you want to make sure that you submit it as soon as possible. It's not that straight away because it will get backdated, but it's important for your other benefits. But for the actual child benefit application form, it won't be that necessary to do it that quickly. But again, because you're relying on the housing benefit and need all those other benefits together, then just make sure to submit it to them as soon as possible. And we've got here the child you own, so obviously it is. And then we've got the second child, which you can just put in the information here. So these here you're going to leave empty if your income is below £50,000. Then we've got here how you want to be paid. So you're going to be paid, they're going to ask you, do you want to be paid weekly? So the answer is no. And you just, because only a single parent can get paid weekly, and then you want to get, or if you get income support or income-based job seekers allowance or pension credit, also or employment support allowance, so only in those cases can you get your child benefit weekly. But in a normal circumstance, you would get your payment every 4 weeks. And just make sure here to include the bank details where you want the benefits to be paid to. And now if you want, you could, and here you have to sign it and declare the information is being correct. Now if you want, I just want to try and mention that if you want, you could have, let's say, housing benefit paid in one account, your child benefit into a different account, child tax into different accounts. So you could split up those accounts and without having all the benefits being paid into one account. So that's not a problem. And you can have it separately paid each into a different account. And this is here the address where you have to send your application form to. So once you have completed the application form, as we mentioned with the supporting documents, make sure that you submit it to that address. And it's actually free post, but I don't recommend that you send by free post. Rather send it into them by recorded delivery. And like this, anything happens to your documents or if anything gets lost, you're going to have the proof of postage when it comes to any disputes. And that's actually a very important point when it comes to all the benefits. So any documents that you're going to be sending, make sure to send it by recorded delivery. Like this, you have proof of any document or any questions that are being asked that you can submit, and show them, look, we've submitted those documents, it's been submitted by recorded delivery, and here you have the receipt for as proof of postage. Now this is important that you put in your details here again, because that's what Child Benefit is going to be using to send back your documents. So fill in just here your name, date of birth, name, address, and postcode, and that's what they're going to use just to send you back your documents. And usually how it works is the way you've sent it to them, that's how they're going to send it back to you. So if you send to them by record delivery, they would send it back to you also by record delivery. So that's why I make sure that you submit to them by record delivery. Then we've got we've got tax credit, which I'm going to show you again. So as we said, tax credit, in order to get tax credit, you're going to have to order one online. Not online, you can actually order online, which is actually a new feature which has been recently opened. But I found that it takes longer for the application to arrive online, and also not always did the application get submitted, because let's say they've had a different address for you previously, or they didn't know you on that address. And basically what happens is the computer wouldn't find you, and as a result they wouldn't send you out an application form. And that's why I make sure that when you submit an application form for tax credit, that when you ask for a tax credit application form, I will do it on the phone. Just give them a call, give them your details, and what you can do is even ask for 2 application forms. So basically one in your name and one in on your wife's name. Like this, you're going to be sure that one of them arrives, and do that before you come back to the UK, because as we mentioned, it takes about 10 to 14 days for that application form to arrive. So you might as well order it in advance. Like this, you'll have it by the time you make the application for tax credit. So here you would put in your personal details, your name, date of birth, national insurance number, address for you. Basically this side, let's say, is for you, and the other side would be for your partner. And here's again just part of your personal details: male, female, part of immigration, do you usually live in the UK? So we've got all those questions here which you just have to fill in according to your circumstances. And then we've got child 1, and then we've got here child 2. And as mentioned before, there are extra pages which come together with the application pack. If you have more than 2 kids, which you can just send them together. And again, if you haven't got enough pages, just make sure to submit it together with the application form, a separate paper which contains all the information of all the other kids. And again, just make sure that you have all the information to ask for here as on your separate paper, which you're going to submit to them when it comes to for your tax credit for your additional kids. Now here we mentioned for childcare, if you want, you can add the childcare details in the initial application. But as we said before, because it's going to take time for your application to get approved, I wouldn't advise you to make an application for childcare straight away together with your tax credit, because if it takes too long for your tax credit to get approved, and you're going to have to make payments to your childcare provider for a long time, wherever it is, and you have to pay that money every week from your own pockets, it might be straining for you. It might be quite hard for you to keep up with those payments, and you don't want to be claiming and falling behind in payments. Then you're going to cause yourself even bigger problems. So that's why rather what you should make is make your application form, and once it gets approved, you can always add the element of childcare to your tax credit claim. Here we've got about the employment. So if you work, you have to tick yes. If you work in the UK, how many hours you work. And again, all those questions are for you and your partner, and you make sure to fill in both sides. So you've got how many jobs you have. Now, if you have more than one job, so let's say you've got 2 jobs, just put in 2, but you would always only include your main employment into these forms. So let's say in one company you work 20 hours, another one is 4, then you use the employment of the company where you work 20 hours and not in the company where you work less hours. And the same would be if you have half, and then obviously just make sure to include one of them. And if you both work, make sure to include for both employments. Now, if you've been self-employed, you've put in here the details and as requested here. Now, if you get one of these benefits, just make sure to tick them, but you're probably not getting it if you've just moved back to the UK. The income, now basically how that works is they want to know, and that's how they're going to work out your claim for this year, for the coming year, how much you've been previously earning. So that's why make sure to take your P60. If you have worked previously, then obviously you have to put in the P60 figure from last year. If you're not sure of the exact figure, but you've previously worked, put in an estimated figure. And one of the questions soon is going to be, are the figures actual or are they just estimated? So if you have actual figures, use actual figures. If you don't have actual figures, just try and use estimated figures. And if you haven't worked at all, then just put a 0. So any social security benefits you've received last year, probably haven't because you've just come, so it's 0. Employment from last year. So again, if you have actual figures, put them in. If you haven't got actual figures, then just put in the estimated figure. Or if it's been 0, you haven't been working last year, then just put in a 0 in there. Then we've got company car and fuel, taxable vouchers, and benefits in kind. So you haven't received any of those probably. And the same as self-employment, you haven't been last year. And again, if you have, then just make sure to include those benefits. And if you've received any of the other benefits, then you would include it in here, or any other income you would include in here. If you haven't, then it's just 0 and just put in a 0 in them. Now here's a question where they ask you if it's an estimated income or an actual income. So again, if it's an estimated figure, then you would just have to answer this question accordingly. Or whether it's not, you just have to tell them is an estimated figure or isn't an estimated figure. And the difference will be is not for your actual tax credit application form, because they would process your actual tax credit application form. But what happens is that they would work out on your renewal once a year. You have to renew your tax credit, and again, that's again a separate recording which you can listen at, how to renew your tax credit. But that doesn't apply to you at the moment because now you're just making first claim. But in the future, when you're gonna next year, when you're gonna get your tax credit renewal, if you haven't given your actual figures, they would ask you next year what was your figures for the last year. So they would go back to this year which you didn't know those figures. So that's just a small difference where it would make if you have actual figures or you don't have actual figures. But again, your benefits would get processed even without having the actual figure. Now, when it comes here to child tax credit, you can ask them if you want to have a weekly, if you want to have it, or your partner wants to have it. The same as working tax credit, you can ask them either weekly or 4 weekly payments. And again, most people prefer to have a weekly like this and know exactly how much it comes, because in England, everything works weekly. So wages are being paid weekly, bills can be paid weekly, the grocery bills or whatever. Is a lot of things work weekly, and that's why people appreciate to get their payments weekly. But again, if you rather have them 4 weekly, then just give them 4 weekly details. And here you just put in the account details. If you want into your account, do you want it to your account, do you want it to your partner's account, just put in the details to show them into where you want to send your claim. And here the additional pages are told beforehand. So those are the additional pages you can use to add additional kids to your tax credit claim. And basically what you do is to send this in together with the application form to the tax credit department. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned here beforehand is make sure to take a copy of any document that you submit either to the council, to child benefit, to tax credit. You never know where it's going to come, where it's going to help you, where it's just that document that you've been missing, or just that information that you weren't sure and you haven't got the documents now to check it up. And that's why make sure any documents that you submit, any application form, even if it's your own personal documents, make sure to make a copy of those documents. And like this, you can just give it in together, all together, and you'll have it. And any questions that afterwards come up, you'll have those documents at hand. You can show them, look, this is the documents I've given in to you. I've actually got a copy. And again, as we said, any documents that you're going to be sending by post, make sure to send it by recorded delivery. Never send a document just by normal post. Number one, they can get lost. Number two, you'll never have proof of what you send. That's why make sure any documents that you send it in by recorded delivery. Now we've also discussed beforehand about how much you're allowed to be earning for when it comes to tax credit. Now I'm just going to show you a quick. Actually, it's quite a good website, so let's share this and let's open it together. So we've got one I want to show you is this one. from Hackney Council. So basically, on there, you would have all the figures of how much you're allowed to be earning according to your circumstances, how much you would be allowed to earn. So let's say we've got a single claim would be 57. If they're over 25, is 73. A couple is 87.50. If they're under 18, above 18 is £114.85. And again, there are some additions that come on top of that £114. Then we've got per each child you're allowed to another £66.90. And then you get the family premium. So that's a good website you can have a look at, and to figure out how much you're allowed to be earning on the weekly basis before you lose out on housing benefit. And again, as we said beforehand, you lose out 65 pence on your ongoing benefits. So let's say you earn £1 too much, they would deduct 65 pence from your existing housing benefit claim. And now let me show you one more website, which is also very good. Called Family Nest Tax Credit Calculator. And I must say they're pretty accurate because I've used them many times, and I show it to people if they want to work out the benefits. So basically what you do is you put in your circumstance. So let's say a couple here, they're working between 16 hours. One is working 16 hours, one is working 8 hours. And then we've got, no one has got disability. My household income for the year, let's say, is going to be £10,000. And let's say we've got with 4 kids. So now this would show you exactly how much working tax credit you would get, how much childcare you would get. So obviously in this case is 0 because I haven't included childcare. Then we've got child tax credit, how much you would get. So total amount per week you would get £270.96 for child tax credit and working tax credit. And that's a very good idea that you can have if you want to know exactly how much you're going to be earning. So you can use those figures, and that's pretty much how much you're going to be earning. If you want to work it out with childcare, you can add the childcare. Let's say for 2 kids you're going to be paying £300. So and you can have them recount. So how much page for childcare is £300. I'm not sure why it's not refreshing at the moment. But again, this is how basically just play around with this calculator. It's called Family Nest Tax Credit Calculator, onefamily.com. And tax credit calculator used to be called Family Nest. That's why I call it Family Nest. But no, it's called now onefamily.com. And just check out here how much, if you want to find out how much tax credit you would be getting, just use that link if you want to work out your tax credit. I really hope this has been very clear for you, and that's been an eye-opener for you when it comes to tax credit. And to all listeners, whether you're on YouTube or you're listening on other channels, wherever you're listening, and thanks for all of you who've been writing in the meantime. I really have another chance to reply to those, but I'm going to try go through the comments and try to respond to those who left comments and questions. And I really hope that you've now been clear. Now, the idea of this is that when you move back, you should have some kind of an understanding of what benefits are available to you. And obviously, it's just been an hour now, a bit over an hour, and obviously you can't have everything 100% understand. You obviously haven't got everything clear, and you might have some questions. And feel free to drop us a quick email or leave it here in the comments on the chat group and just ask a question, and I'll try and answer it for you. But I hope this has been an eye-opener for you. And always, that's what we make sure that you share that information that you've learned today with your friends and family, and tell them what you've seen today, and let them go to YouTube and they should review this webinar and help them, because you never know how much a benefit can make a difference to a family. So if a family can get an extra benefit because of you, because of me, or because of us sharing this video, because working this through together, then this whole world, everything was worth it already. So that's why make sure family and friends who are moving back to the UK, make sure that you forward this to them, and so that they can also have an understanding of the benefit system and help them when it comes to their benefits. And obviously, if you want us to take care of your benefits, feel free. All you have to do is give us a call. We'll discuss it. We'll go through your claim separately with you, and again, to go through all the information according to your circumstances. What we do, we'll take over your whole application form. So we'll do your housing benefit, your child benefit, your child tax credit, work tax credit. Everything gets done for you, and all you have to do is sign those documents. And obviously, we'll have a meeting beforehand to make sure that we know exactly what the process is, that you have a clear understanding, and all you have to do is sign those documents, and the rest we are going to do for you. So whether it's responding to letters or it's responding to questionnaires, like we mentioned before, and you're going to get them, everything gets taken care of by our office. And As you know, our system is very sophisticated, and how we work is basically that you would get a text message in every step by step of whatever we do. So you get the text message saying, today we've done this and this for you, or remind you, forward us this and this document, this is still outstanding. So we'll keep you in contact with either text messages or emails, and we'll be in contact with you. And obviously, all of our staff in our office is available to help you for any questions they may have. I've hoped you enjoyed it, and I look forward to sharing with you more content and value information in the near future.